Now we begin the news in West Africa, where a federal high court in Abuja, Nigeria's capital, has adjourned the tax evasion case involving Binance Holdings Limited and its executive. The matter was adjourned following the FIRS inability to serve Gambaryan the charges in EFCC custody. The Federal Inland Revenue Service had dragged the firm to court for tax evasion. Also joined in the suit are officials of the company, Tigran Gambaryan and fleeing Nadim Anjarwala. In the suit, Binance was accused of failing to register with the FIRS for the purpose of paying all relevant taxes administered by the service. The FIRS also alleged that while it was offering taxable services to subscribers on its trading platform, the company failed to issue invoices to the subscribers for the purposes of determining the payment of its value-added taxes. Residents of Umuahia, Abia State capital, are again faced with an unexplained situation of cash withdrawal restrictions by the commercial banks. The customers since last week have been made to visit more than one bank in a day to make withdrawals that can meet their demands. News Central's Chingwe Ugele reports. Package later. Nigeria's government says that there will be a threefold increase of electricity tariff from 68 naira per kilowatt in an hour to 225 naira, which commences April the 4th. Now, the vice chairman of the Nigeria's Electricity Regulatory Commission made this known in Abuja while briefing stakeholders of recent developments in the sector, saying that this would actually apply to Band A customers who make up less than 15% of available electricity customers in the country. Amadin Uyi reports.
The speculation for increasing electricity tariff has been ongoing since December 2023. This has put many citizens on edge, as the increase in electricity tariff will have similar effect like the removal of petrol subsidy across the country, which has catalyzed an unbearable inflation. However, speaking to stakeholders in Abuja, the vice chairman of Nigeria's Electricity Regulatory Commission says that an increase is inevitable owing to the increasing cost of gas and the rising foreign exchange rates.
The April supplementary order takes effect from today, and in that order, the Commission has approved a rate review of 225 naira per kilowatt hour for just under 15% of the customer population in NESI. So that means that less than 15% of the customers will be affected. Many of the customers previously classified as Band A customers will not be affected. In fact, majority of them will not be affected.
The government has the ability to determine what customers pay. Because at the end of the day, our responsibility is to determine a tariff that ensures full recovery for investors. How they recover that money is actually, in some extent, in the hands of the government. And this is not peculiar to Nigeria.
He, however, allayed fears that all customers affected will witness improved service and longer hours of electricity supply, saying that the Commission also intends to obtain more data from electricity distribution companies going forward.
The rate that will be paid, which is 225, is just about 3 times the existing rates. Requires that the customer truly get the service. So I've told you that the Commission is leveraging on technology to ensure that we get access directly to the distribution system and get the data, as the data is being fed from the meters, the smart meters that have been installed on the feeders. We are getting in real time or near real time. We don't give the discos the opportunity of any manipulation of data.
The Electricity Regulatory Commission also revealed that it intends to close the metering gap in the country using funds of those being affected by the increase in tariff. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amajin Uyi.
I'll tell you that manufacturers and organized labor have strongly opposed the Nigerian government's decision to increase electricity tariffs by 240% for users enjoying a 20-hour power supply. Now, they have emphasized the importance of maintaining electricity subsidies, cautioning that removing them could lead to the closure of manufacturing businesses and exacerbate inflation. The subsidy on electricity has been entirely removed from the tariff application to power consumers in the Band A category, constituting approximately 15% of the total number of power users nationwide. The government announced the tariff hike during a press briefing held by the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission in Abuja on Wednesday. Under the new arrangement, affected consumers will now be required to pay a tariff of 225 naira per kilowatt per hour, a significant increase from the previous rate of 68 naira per kilowatt an hour, representing approximately a 240% rise. The Private Telecommunications and Communications Senior Staff Association of Nigeria has suspended its planned strike, which was to begin on Thursday. In a statement signed by its General Secretary, Okonu Abdullahi, on Wednesday, the union said the suspension was as a result of agreements reached with the subcontractors it had issues with. Now, the union had on April 2nd announced plans to embark on an indefinite strike over alleged unresolved issues with subcontractors linked with Huawei Technologies Nigeria Limited. The union said the subcontractors included Rayme Group, Allstream Energy Solutions Limited, Uppercrest Limited, Tilium Nigeria Limited, and Specific Tools and Techniques Limited. Now, in security matters now, Nigeria's army has dismissed claims that it has taken over the responsibility of the police in the investigation of persons complicit in the killing of 17 military personnel in Okwama, Delta State. The Director of Defense Media Operations, Major General Edward Buba, during a briefing with newsmen, says that the army is working in partnership with the police to unearth the killers. He urged those recently declared wanted to emulate the monarch in Delta State who recently surrendered himself to the police, saying there will be no hiding place for those involved.
We put out posters of 8 persons wanted in connection with the killing. And there is a manhunt for those persons. One of them, a traditional ruler, submitted himself, and we wish that others will do the same. The situation is that there is a joint investigation team. And this joint investigation team has the police, who is the lead in cases of this nature where investigations are to be carried out. The investigation is ongoing. And I believe that some things are better left unsaid at this stage.
Human Rights Writers Association of Nigeria has condemned the federal government's de-radicalization and reintegration program for ex-terrorists and bandits, saying the program is an affront on citizens. Now, the national coordinator of the association, while speaking to newsmen in Abuja, also called on the Nigerian police force to come out clean on alleged efforts to enlist former bandits into the police force, saying that this should be resisted. He called on the federal government to end any such program in the interest of the public.
We are against the practice of enlisting persons who have proven cases of criminality or even terrorism. In addition to that, let us use the opportunity of this press conference to say that we believe that it is high treason for the president of the Federation, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to continue with the unlawful practice of his immediate predecessor, Muhammadu Buhari, who started the program of so-called de-radicalization and rehabilitation of what they call repentant terrorists. There's nothing like repentant Boko Haram. Once you're a terrorist, you are a terrorist. The agency should tell Nigerians, does the police run a program of rehabilitating bandits and enlisting them into the police force? Is it constitutional for persons to be arrested based on the fact that they are Fulanis, or based on the fact that somebody just get to the police and said, I know that this guy is a bandit or a kidnapper, and now the police, you go and pick up the person and lock him up, you don't have any evidence?
Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. Now we'll move to the story on electricity tariff increase and how the manufacturers and labor have actually decried the percentage increase of electricity tariff. Now, to discuss this further, I'm joined by a professor of energy electricity law, Yemi Oke. Hello, Professor. Thank you so much for joining me at this time.
Thanks for having me, and good afternoon.
Good afternoon. All right, so what factors would you say led to the approval of an increase in electricity tariff specifically for customers under the Band A classification by the NERC? And how do these factors align with the current energy market dynamics in Nigeria?
What led to it is what we can call it doctrine of necessity, because Nigerians are used to the doctrine of necessity. When you get to the extreme end of the world, there isn't any other option for you except to face the reality. That was where Nigeria got to, and we predicted we were headed in a journey of no return with the manner and the way we are pursuing certain issues in the power sector. The manufacturers, the labor are aware that we have no option. And I'm particularly happy today that my good friend Joe Ajero is the president of the Nigerian Labour Congress. Joe Ajero and I have been in this struggle for decades. When we had privatization of the power sector, he was the head of the electricity union. What were the concerns? The concern then was how to get things done correctly and to be sure we are privatizing correctly. So we had a bit of divergent views.
All right. So what you're saying is that the tariff increase.
The manufacturers are the receiving end of the challenges in the power sector. So whichever way you look at it, all stakeholders, if they will be honest and sincere enough, we agree that we had no option as a country than to do what has been done. It's not even about this administration, because we even suggested it to the Jonathan administration. We amplified it even under the Buhari administration. And we kept saying the power sector was going to collapse on all of us together as a country, as a people, unless we are ready to do the right thing.
Okay, but would you say, you said unless you are ready, but would you say that, right now is the time, considering that everything is on the increase with the subsidy removal on fuel, everything seems to be on the increase except the salaries of those who can actually afford it?
Before, Nigerians, we were living on false hopes before. Even in the fiscal regime, which is not being addressed, we are living on false hopes even in the power sector. It was a stimulated sustenance that we had, because government was then spending more in a supposedly privatized power sector. And that was not going to be sustainable. We told them that was not going to be so. We told them like more than a decade that the way at which we're going, it wasn't going to be sustainable because one is witnessing the speculated foreign direct investment we expected in the power sector because the sector was not that buoyant. It wasn't that liquid. We subsequently witnessed a situation in which the discos, almost all of them except for 2 or 3, became technically insolvent. We saw a situation in which the gencos couldn't even continue to generate for the discos to distribute because they couldn't afford to pay for the gas. So gas was the main feedstock of the power sector. Then the gas guys, producers, continued to produce gas for domestic markets at a loss. It got to a level they weren't encouraged to continue because nobody was going to pay for their losses. Despite the fact that they had a kind of a statutory obligation, the trustee statutory obligation, we call it, because that wasn't going to be enforceable, called domestic gas obligation.
All right, Prof. But then, could you, provide insights into the criteria used by the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, that's the NERC, to classify customers into different bands, and what measures are in place to ensure that customers receive the required hours of electricity supply as per their classification?
Well, let me tell you, I'm not going to speak for the regulator. I'm not a regulator. I never agreed with them that I felt they are part of the challenges that we're having as a country. There were times I descended on them heavily, and I'm not ready to do that now because there's nothing I ought to say that I've not said years back, decades ago, as to where we are in the power sector. I felt the regulator has not been regulating effectively. I think even the operators agreed that they weren't having effective regulation in the power sector. And once federal government privatizes, the only reasonable thing the government could do is to bring on board effective sector regulation. If there are challenges in the financial sector, the banking sector, nobody's going to talk about the federal government. And that's why nobody should look at the federal government as being the reason for the increase or adjustment in the tariff. If there's anything in the monetary policy, people talk about the CBN because CBN is seen as a regulator. So if there's any intervention in the power sector, it's not the federal government, it is the NERC, Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, which is the regulator, because it should ordinarily be independent of government.
All right, Professor.
Most of the challenges you have are things that ought to have been avoided. Government was subsidizing gas purchases. Government was subsidizing production as against actual consumption of electricity as is done in other countries. The discos are struggling to meet their obligation, both to the gencos, both to their lenders. A lot of Nigerians are bypassing meters. The megawatts that is distributed to them, some Nigerians, unscrupulous Nigerians, some of them are cutting corners, bypassing, meaning the subsidy that has gone into production has been a waste. So if government has been subsidizing production of electricity like 4,000, 5,000 megawatts, at the end of the day, the actual megawatts that will get really receipted for or paid for will be 3,000 or 2,000, meaning government has been subsidizing waste. Government has been subsidizing.
All right, Professor. Now, still talking about the outcries from labor, manufacturers, and consumers as well. How some people are, some customers are being downgraded from band A to band B due to non-fulfillment of required hours of electricity supply. How would it impact their access to electricity and affordability? And are there any measures that should be taken to address any potential grievances? Because obviously more would actually come. This is just the beginning. So are there any measures taken to, to do that?
Government is pulling back the wasteful subsidies in the power sector. Government has realized, commendably so, that the manner in which the subsidy in the power sector is channeled is not going to be sustainable. Government is now trying to reduce the subsidy and channel the subsidy effectively to end users, to those who really need subsidies. Government shouldn't continue to subsidize those who can afford to pay for electricity. And I've been saying, and I'll still say again, an average Nigerian consumer will be ready to pay slightly more for electricity if they have supply. If an average manufacturer will be willing to pay slightly more for electricity supply if they have it. But what they're not ready to do is to pay more for darkness. And this is inch on production. What is being done will mean they're going to free up the money for subsidy and channel it to those who really need subsidies. Two, they're going to be able to pay for the gas, and the gencos are going to be properly paid for the megawatts they've generated. Then the discos will be more effective in the marketing of the megawatts that they have, including recovery of those bills, those tariffs from those who have been bypassing. Government is now able, through presidential metering initiative, another initiative, to ensure Nigerians are meeting the metering gap so that Nigerians can now regulate their consumption pattern. Those who can afford 3 hours of electricity will pay for 3 hours of electricity.
Okay.
Those who want 5 hours will be ready to pay for more. The same thing in the petroleum sector.
All right.
There's been an increase in the petroleum product. If you can consume 50 liters, you go for it. If what you can afford is 20, you go for it, as against wastages. And government has been spending Nigerians' hard-earned money to subsidize power sector, and the subsidy is strongly channeled.
All right. Well, thank you so much,
challenge.
Professor. We apologize, but we'd actually have to let you go right now. But thank you so much for joining us and speaking to us on this.
Thanks for having me. Have a good day.
You too. All right, away from that to a bit of politics now. Nigeria's Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, has assured residents of the territory that the federal government will renovate dilapidated schools and hospitals within the capital. This was as he continued his inspection tour of ongoing projects within the capital, saying that many of them will be commissioned on May the 29th. Amadin Uyi reports.
The minister visited several construction sites within the Abuja municipal area. From the Gusape extension, where he got a first-hand view of excavation works in preparatory to construction of connecting roads, to the Asokoro roundabout, where he also appraised the ongoing overlaying of coal tar on the major road. Other sites within the capital were also visited, where he got first-hand information from the project managers.
It's a close after about 2 to 300 meters down, but it is a close. And the 2 sides allocated for close.
The street light is practically is all completed. All the electrical line has been installed. The only thing missing, but if you see displays here, is the location of the transformer of this area.
He says that the recently passed 2024 budget gives an opportunity to do more.
These few months we came in, 1 year, almost 1 year that the president has come in. With this budget, a lot of things will be done.
He also adds that the FCT administration will also focus on the education and health sector, as it has earmarked many schools and hospitals for renovation.
I didn't say here that we are going to concentrate only on the roads. We say we are going to dwell on the health sector and the education sector. Even agriculture, in terms of education, there are a few ways. We're flagged down by the government of 19 schools. And I just said that we're going to take on 21 schools again under the 2024 budget. These people know. It's just that some Nigerians find it difficult to accept the reality of ground.
Wike says many of the projects being inspected will be commissioned by May the 29th. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadin Uyi.
Away from that, economic activities within the Jos Bukuru metropolis were grounded Wednesday following a one-day warning strike embarked upon by members of the Plateau State Joint Transport Traders and Marketers Association. News Central's Chizoba Anyonwe tells us more.
It is unusual to have this set of people down tools, majorly because of their economic contributions to society. Anytime they're on strike, every other system in society seems to be grounded as it affects almost all business activities. The joint union had on Tuesday briefed journalists on their displeasure following the state government's Executive Order 003/2024 directive that vehicles illegally parked within the metropolis be impounded and the sum of 500,000 naira paid before they are retrieved.
We therefore call on the government of Plateau State to react his step on this executive order by releasing our impounded trucks immediately, provide designated roads for trucks, allow trucks moving goods to other states like Bauchi, Gombe, Adamawa, Taraba, Yobe, Borno, and Jigawa states to use the bypass road to their various destinations, and further urge the government to construct truck terminals.
Fallout of the joint union's order on Tuesday is discompliance by members who stood by their shops, watching and hoping they will be ordered otherwise for the business of the day.
They are asking government to see how they can at least relax some of the policies so that it will be more better for them, so that the cost will be a little bit cheaper for them.
No motor comes till 9 o'clock. But don't expect one that comes to 9 o'clock and do offload that night and go back. Okay, who's security that will do to take care of the goods for that person that night?
Executive Order 003/2024 made it clear 3 weeks ago that government will not go back on its words to ensure sanity in the state.
We had taken all our complaints, had all the stakeholder engagements, and we have submitted it to His Excellency, which gave birth to the executive order, and we're going to enforce it to the full.
This is not a banana republic. We will not allow rascality of epidemic proportion to continue to fester. This is Plateau State. We must make our state beautiful.
I am on Ahmadu Bello Way area in Jos, the Plateau State capital, and it is past 11 a.m. Nigerian time. Usually, this place used to be a beehive of activities. But today, and especially at this time, it has become a shadow of its own because of these developments. What I cannot tell you for sure is when activities will come back to normal. But as they develop, we shall surely bring you details in our subsequent bulletins. In Jos for News Central, Chizoba Anyowe.
News Central now continues in West Africa, where Senegal's new president, Bassirou Diomaye Faye, has set out his main priorities in his address to the nation on the eve of Senegal's Independence Day. The left-wing Pan-Africanist promises to take strong measures in the coming days to meet the needs of Senegalese who are tired of living the high cost of living. Now, Faye has said his priorities include fighting corruption and lowering the cost of living, as well as national reconciliation after years of turmoil. The naming of opposition firebrand Sonko as prime minister seems a logical choice for the left-wing Pan-Africanist who has never before held an elected office.
Instaurer une gouvernance vertueuse fondée sur l'éthique de responsabilité et l'obligation de rendre compte. En outre, j'engagerai sans tarder une politique hardie de bonne gouvernance économique et financière par la lutte sans répit contre la corruption, la répression pénale de la fraude fiscale et des flux financiers illicites, la protection des lanceurs d'alerte, la lutte contre le détournement des deniers publics et le blanchiment d'argent, l'amnistie des prête-noms et leur intéressement sous conditions d'autodénonciation, la publication des rapports de l'IGE, de la Cour des comptes et de l'OFNAC, l'exploitation de nos ressources naturelles qui, selon la Constitution, appartiennent au peuple, retiendra particulièrement l'attention de mon gouvernement. Ainsi, en plus de la mise en ligne déjà effective des contrats miniers, pétroliers et gaziers sur le site de l'ITIE Sénégal, je ferai procéder à la divulgation de la propriété effective des entreprises extractives conformément à la norme ITIE, à l'audit du secteur minier, gazier et pétrolier et à une protection plus soutenue du contenu local au bénéfice du secteur privé.
Let's now head to Togo, where the government has postponed legislative elections scheduled for April 20th due to contested constitutional reforms. The president stated consultations were needed over the changes, which triggered opposition claims that the reforms were aimed at keeping President Faure Gnassingbe in power. Gnassingbe, who's won every election since 2005, but opposition claims irregularities. After a week of tensions over the reform, Nasimbe sent the law back to the National Assembly for a second reading, with opposition claiming it was a power grab. The government will conduct consultations with stakeholders and rearrange the calendar of legislative and regional elections with no new date given. In South Africa, former Parliament Speaker has been arrested as part of a graft inquiry. This is the latest scandal to hit the governing ANC party ahead of elections in May. According to prosecutors, Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nkakula, who resigned her speaker post Wednesday, was formally detained after handling herself into police near Pretoria. The ANC veteran was due to appear before a judge and be formally charged with corruption and money laundering. Mapisa-Nkakula is accused of soliciting hefty amounts in bribes from a former military contractor during her previous tenure as defense minister. She denies the allegations. Staying in the Rainbow Nation, the South African Electoral Commission has outlined the importance of signing the Code of Conduct for the upcoming elections. The Commission also conducted a public draw of all contesting parties and dependents to determine the order of contesting parties on the ballot paper. Furthermore, the Commission also spoke about former President Jacob Zuma's exclusion from the ballot. Still in the Rainbow Nation, or from the Rainbow Nation, we head to East Africa, where Somalia has announced the expulsion of Ethiopia's ambassador from the country amidst rising tension over a port deal dispute in the breakaway region of Somaliland. Ethiopian ambassador Mukhtar Mohammed was sent home for consultations, the office of Somalia's prime minister said on Thursday. Mogadishu is also shutting down Ethiopia's consulates in Hargeisa, the largest city and capital of Somaliland, and Garowe, the capital city of semi-autonomous region of Puntland. In a brief statement on X, Somalia's foreign minister Ali Omar added that Mohammed has been given 72 hours to leave the country following what he described as Ethiopian interference in Mogadishu's internal affairs. Now let's move to World Wrap, where 3 security personnel, including the office of a police station, have been killed. A deputy of a police station have been killed in terrorist attacks in Iran. Now this comes 2 days after 7 Iranian Revolutionary Guards were killed in an airstrike in Syria. Ali Reza Marhamati, deputy governor of the province, said that the jihadist Jaish al-Ad group, which was formed in 2012 and is blacklisted by Iran as a terrorist group, claimed responsibility for the attacks. The attacks came less than 48 hours after an airstrike on the Iranian consular annex in Damascus killed 7 Revolutionary Guards, 2 of them generals. Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi says that Israel will regret the airstrike on the Iranian consular annex in Damascus, which killed 7 Revolutionary Guards, 2 of them generals. Raisi said this in a televised speech. However, Israeli government officials said that those killed had been behind many attacks on Israeli and American assets and had plans for additional attacks. They also insisted that the embassy was not a target.
زیر پا گذاشتن همه اصول انسانی و مقررات بین‌المللی از جمله حمله تروریستی این رژیم به کنسولگری جمهوری اسلامی ایران در دمشق اگرچه بی‌پاسخ نخواهد ماند، اما اوج سرخوردگی و درماندگی این رژیم را نشان میده. به حول قوه الهی رژیم غاصب صهیونیستی به دست دلاور مردان جبهه مقاومت مجازات خواهد شد. آنها از این جنایت و امثال آن پشیمان خواهند شد. متاسفانه مدعیان دروغین حقوق بشر در غرب سکوت خجالت‌آوری را پیشه کردند و نه تنها تلاشی برای توقف ماشین کشتار رژیم صهیونیستی نمی‌کنند، بلکه با محوریت امریکا آشکار و پنهان در این جنایات مشارکت دارند.
Emergency crews worked near a heavily tilted building in Hualien on Thursday morning after a powerful 7.4 magnitude earthquake struck the area the day before. At least 9 people were killed and more than 1,000 injured on Wednesday by the powerful earthquake that damaged dozens of buildings and prompted tsunami warnings as far as Japan and the Philippines before being lifted. Dozens of people were believed safe but unreachable in areas cut off by massive landslides triggered by the quake. Officials say the quake was the strongest to shake the island in 25 years, while warning of more tremors in the days ahead. Now let's take a look at business, where the International Air Transport Association, IATA, reports that African airlines have recorded a 22% year-on-year surge in air cargo demand in February, the highest among all regions. The intra-Africa trade lane witnessed a 42.3% growth, while February's capacity rose by 28.2%. IATA's February 2024 data revealed a continued robust annual growth in global air cargo markets. Total demand escalated by 11.9% compared to February 2023, marking the third consecutive month of double-digit growth. Capacity also saw a 13.4% increase, largely attributed to the 29.5% rise in international belly capacity, surpassing freighter capacity. Willie Walsh, IATA's Director General, highlighted that the strong start in 2024 could see demand exceed early 2022 levels, underscoring air cargo's resilience amidst ongoing political and economic uncertainties. The debt-to-tax revenue ratio in Kenya hit a record 84.4% in the 8 months leading to February, leaving scant resources for development and escalating national debt. Tax revenue was 1.37 trillion Kenyan shillings, with 1.16 trillion Kenyan shillings going to creditors. This rise in debt service costs, coupled with struggling tax revenue growth, has led to decreased development spending and increased borrowing. The government spending on development projects has decreased compared to previous years, while debt service has increased. The underperformance of tax revenue means that to meet the annual target of 2.5 trillion Kenyan shillings, 1.13 trillion Kenyan shillings must be collected in the remaining 4 months. The Parliamentary Budget Office warns of a 330 billion Kenyan shillings shortfall due to economic underperformance. And now in the world of sports, South African footballer Luc Fleurs has been shot dead in a car hijacking, his team says. The shooting took place at a petrol station on Wednesday night in Johannesburg suburb of Florida. The 24-year-old was waiting to be attended to when he was approached by unknown gunmen who ordered him to get out of his vehicle. One of the suspects fled the scene with Fleurs' car after the shooting. His team, Kaiser Chiefs, says the death was tragic. It said police were handling the matter and further details will be communicated in due course. Still in sports, Britain's Jack Draper plans to make a return to Queen's Club as part of his preparations for Wimbledon this summer. Draper, 22, missed last year's Cinch Championships because of a shoulder injury which ruled him out of the entire British grass court season. This year, he has climbed to a career-high ranking of 37th in the world. Draper is set to be joined at Queen's by compatriots. And that's all at this hour. Do send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen. Follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Dashen, Usman.